A little recap. The coven called off their impersonate undertaking to instead hunt down Roger for misleading them. You tracked Roger to Wacky Willie's Fun Time Circus, an abandoned amusement park. It's on a tiny island off the coast of Manhattan. It's been shut down for at least 30 years. You're standing in a disused arcade.
An abandoned amusement park. How apropos given the season.
There are burned out electrical lights everywhere. There are booths all around where you would try to throw a ball into a goldfish tank or throw darts at balloons. It's entirely outdoors. Everything's broken down. You can see roller coasters off in the distance on the other side of the island. They don't appear to be functional. All of a sudden, the lights and sounds of a bustling amusement park spring to life all around you. Hundreds of happy people appearing to play games and riding the rides. And you hear a carnival barker's voice booming from a clown-mouthed entrance labeled Fun House. Come inside, if you dare. Ha 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 ha.
This doesn't seem suspect at all.
Roger is an illusionist, so don't trust anything that you see.
Anything that anyone wants to do?
Oh yeah, I did want to flashback and ask our Vulture Votary contact if they okayed Roger's ask of us.
Would this be a group flashback?
Seems likely to be something we were present for.
Sounds good. 0 willpower flashback. Let me set the scene. A few hours after you got back from Rara Avis, you returned to North Brother Island and visited with your contact, Aniris Days. She tells you that they are well aware of Roger. He does have his comings and goings with, but she doesn't believe he was acting in their interests at all. He may have been entirely acting against the interests of that Fae faction, that the Bald Cypress Mandrake that Ceph met with, Big Ed.
I think we essentially just referred to him as Treebeard.
Big Ed told you that the deal would have a negative effect on Hollow Might. So that probably was what Roger intended by sending you, and just assumed that since he was there at a Vulture Votary gathering, that no one would think otherwise about his reason for setting you up.
I'm just going to assume he's trying to get us in trouble with the Fae because he doesn't like me.
Anything else in that flashback?
Seems like all the necessary information that we could possibly glean.
Found out Roger's lower than Pond Scum, so I think we're good.
We cut back to you all standing in this brightly lit arcade, flashing red, blue, green, and yellow lights all around you, bathing you all in light, people shouting, kids bumping into you, and you can feel everything. Everything feels real. You start to get catcalled by the gamesmen to try to get you to join in the games. There's a test your strength, there's a dartboard, there's bean bags, things like that.
In the sense that they're just trying to lure us in, or catcalled in a misogynistic sense?
For you, misogynistic sense, and everyone else they're just trying to bring in for games.
I whip out my throwing dagger, and I immediately throw one at whoever was saying those ghastly things.
Do you intend to scare them, or...
Oh, kill, darling.
He's just trying to win the giant stuffed gorilla at this point.
Okay.
I assume finesse is the most appropriate option.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Give me 1 second. Ah, yes, so that is a partial success of 5.
Okay. Your throwing dagger pierces the chest of the gamesman that was barking at you in a suggestive manner, and he begins to bleed down his shirt. It looks like there's a chance he might die from the wound. And when you look down, you also have a little blood coming from your chest in the same area. And you take level 1 harm, punctured breast. The gamesman collapses behind his booth and knocks over a series of heavy clay-filled bottles.
This is going to be a mess to dry clean. Bloody hurts as well.
Can I jump over there and see if they're a real person?
To the best of your medical knowledge, the wound looks real. The skin is split open and blood is pumping from the wound profusely. As you've jumped over the counter, you notice that the gamesmen from the other amusements are now all heading toward you, telling you that you've broken the rules and that you need to get out. So we're going to go to Risky.
No regrets. Ceph, darling, if you have a moment, could you have a look at my chest? Rather peculiar that it suddenly started bleeding on me.
The gamesmen are mostly focused on Hollis, but you might not have enough time.
Does bloody hurt, but we could leave it for a moment. If just to get away from these ghastly carnies.
It's risky, so maybe we just keep moving on, and I look at your chest, and if Hollis's hand is still burnt from last time, maybe I take a look at Hollis too.
My dress is ruined already anyhow.
That's what dry clean's for. Suck it up.
So the stabbing wasn't a breaking of the rules, just the jumping over the table.
It might have been a delayed reaction from both of the things that happened.
You can stab the carnies. It's fine. Just don't push them around.
They're used to getting stabbed.
I guess all signs point towards the fun house.
You're going to need to break away from these gamesmen first, Hollis.
I can scuttle my way around in low, dark places until they lose sight of me.
Okay. Is that a prowl?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I'd say since some of them are pretty close, we'll call that a risky prowl with standard effect. There are a lot of them, but right now you have a cover of one of the booths that you're behind. And are you heading toward the funhouse in your prowl, or are you just trying to get away from the gamesman?
Ideally, I would go towards the fun house if possible. And it's a failure again.
Okay, so you are scrambling out from behind the booth, and a boot steps down in front of your hands just as you're scuttling out, and you find yourself being pincered by two gamesmen. They all have their backs to the other three of you.
Okay, I'll try to be really distracting then and start a long conversation about how sorry I am and how I'm gonna leave.
Okay. So if anyone else is taking an action, that'll probably give them a +1 die.
I have impersonation, so I'm wondering if I can just try to look like a carny and cart Hollis off.
Yeah, that sounds like an insight resist. So you would spend 1 willpower for the protect action, and then you can roll a insight resist along with shapeshifting.
Okay, so I'll do that.
How many people are there? How many game people?
Only 4 have approached, so that leaves the one that's on the ground and 3 others.
I got a 6.
Okay, awesome. They defer to you, and they both back away from her. Once you have her out from behind the booth, they leave you all alone.
Well, it's good we solved that without further violence, because I can't stand more stains on my dress.
That puts everything back at controlled for the moment. The laughing starts back up from the funhouse again, and people continue to go about their business playing the games. You see someone win a giant teddy bear.
We definitely need to investigate that, but Ceph, darling, before we go, really, we need to figure out what the hell just happened.
Can I do a study roll on Elisa's chest to see what's going on?
Sure. Do you all want to move off to an area like behind one of the booths, out of the main thoroughfare, so you're not getting bumped by children and things?
Get me away from the children.
Okay. You find a quiet place in the grass behind one of the booths, and there's popcorn all over the ground. It's sticky. There's snow cone wrappers on the ground and an overflowing trash can nearby for you to crouch down behind and stay out of everyone's way.
Why have we subjected ourselves to this again?
Because Roger sucks. Now hold still while I look at your chest. not in a pervy way. Partial success, I got a 5.
Okay. The wound doesn't look like a knife wound or anything else that you were expecting. It was bleeding a little bit for a moment there, just enough to get on Elise's blouse or dress, but as soon as you get the shirt open enough that you can see the wound, it's very small. It's seeping some kind of yellowish liquid.
You nasty.
There's nothing that you can do with it, even with a first aid kit. Just keep the area dry.
Given that there's obviously food about, can I grab some napkins from somewhere, even if they are illusionary?
Yeah, there are some used napkins on the ground right next to you. Or you could go around. There's a snack bar nearby. I'm sure there's some clean napkins.
I'd rather go to the snack bar, personally.
Just dab your chest with a beaver tail.
Where's the beaver from?
I think the beaver tail reference is lost, darling.
Oh, beaver tail is like fried dough with cinnamon and sugar.
We call those elephant ears, which is way more endangered species, so much more American.
It implies that they're larger, though, which is much better.
Elise, you head over to the snack bar and find some clean napkins there. You pass by the test your strength hammer.
These frail arms could barely lift the hammer itself.
All right, Elise's chest is all cleaned up.
Time to head to the spooky clown uvula.
Everyone heads over, and there is another gamesman standing at the door requesting your tickets.
I'm still disguised at this point. I'll expend some willpower and maybe do a consort roll. Partial success at a 4.
He doesn't exactly recognize you, but he recognizes you enough and you're being friendly enough to him that he's, yeah, let those people in, no problem. Come back with me, let's smoke. But he won't take no for an answer.
This is supposed to be a downside.
Do you want to resist that effect?
No, I'll go with them in case it proves useful in some way.
So,
Can I have Whisper very quickly scuttle onto their shoulder?
Any chance that Ceph would want to put their familiar on one of us?
That's a good point. Elise, you gave me Whisper. Would you be willing to have a
You
frog?
put a frog on my shoulder? Disgusting slime all over this dress. It's already coated in blood. I don't need your mess on top of it.
This is going to be difficult. Hollis, would you take good care of Ribbert for me?
Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you.
the first thing as soon as you're inside the fun house is a house of mirrors maze.
My favorite.
It's going to catch your bad angles as well as your good angles there.
No bad angles.
I didn't want that reminder.
It might make sense if I lead this action and use my master planner ability and focus on making sure we do not get lost.
I feel maybe we should hold on to each other?
That makes sense. Just don't grab my drink.
I'm just picturing the three of you go off Wizard of Oz style.
I have not rolled a single success all evening.
That's going to cost 3 willpower for Elise, and everybody gets the benefit of the partial success.
Well, then it's bloody good I used master planner. So that's only 1 willpower and 1 essence. What a bargain.
Since you were all holding on to each other, there's not a chance of anybody getting separated.
One of us becomes terribly self-conscious after seeing ourselves for so long.
That was actually the first thing I thought of. Hollis headbutts a mirror and breaks it, and the shattered glass is going to be a hazard if you're trying to rush back out of here later.
Nothing hurts quite like bumping into oneself. Might even lead to an existential crisis.
You notice behind the broken mirror, there is a black seepage coming from the wall. It looks very disgusting.
Shall I study that, then? Given that I'm seeping myself.
Yeah, feel free.
A complete success.
You get close to it and check it out, and it is definitely moving toward you. You notice something unusual about the smell. It smells exactly like what was seeping out of your chest a moment ago.
Something terribly peculiar is going on here. Roger must be quite the illusionist to be conjuring something this intricate. And yet there's obviously something more to it than just an illusion.
As you're coming out of the maze of mirrors into one of the back rooms, you notice things are becoming a lot dingier back here. It looks more like the disused part outside. The lights are flickering and things like that. And it looks like there was supposed to be a path that curves on back to an exit, but maybe some of the walls here have been broken down so you can see into some of the back areas of the funhouse that don't look like they were supposed to be accessed. So there are boxes everywhere, and it looks like they were using this place for storage. So with that said, we'll cut back to Ceph and see what they're up to. The gamesman that you've been chatting with, who let you bum a cigarette, he says his name is Sax, and he says he hasn't seen you here before, but it doesn't seem like a problem to him. It's a pickup line rather than a statement of fact.
I'll consort, get all chummy with him. Get chummy with Sax.
Then if we can find a base, we'll have a whole jazz band.
Partial success. You do it at a cost of 5.
He buys it hook, line, and sinker, but you feel something tag you on the back of the neck. It felt like you got hit by a dart. You're going to take level 1 harm. You can resist that if you'd like.
I won't resist. So what kind of harm would that be?
Small neck wound.
Did he happen to notice about the dart in my neck?
No, he says, I must have blinked when it happened. He didn't see anything.
Do I
True,
get anything
yes.
else out of my consort with Sax?
Yeah, he's an open book to you. He considers you a friend. You could even write him down as a contact.
We're buds now. I had to tell Sax that he doesn't recognize me. I'm new to the circuit. I'm supposed to meet with the boss about my paycheck. Where do I find him?
Oh, yeah. He's notoriously hard to get to. But I know a back way in if you want to. I'll show you.
Yeah, sure, I'll follow Sax. We're buds now. I trust Sax.
He doesn't take you directly there, but he does take you back to an opening in a tent. And he tells you that he's always just in there. It's way harder to get to him from the front, but that he has to go back and start collecting tickets again. Otherwise, he's going to get his pay docked.
Can I tell through whisper whether this tent is at all connected to where we are, or whether it's somewhere entirely different and we're wasting our time?
That might be a good use of maybe a survey.
A failure. A terrible, ghastly failure.
Okay. You think if you rush, you can probably make it to where they're at from where you're at pretty quickly just by going behind those boxes. And that is an absolute falsehood that your character believes entirely.
Then evidently, I should announce to everyone that we should rush behind those boxes.
The three of you go bounding toward those boxes unless one or more of you want to split off.
I think I might stay behind a little bit and see what happens to them going behind the boxes.
Hollis and Elise head behind the boxes, and Elise runs into what feels like the biggest stuffed bear you've ever seen, like a stuffed bear prize, except it is built solid. There's metal underneath it. Luckily, it's not enough to chip a tooth or anything, but you smack right into it, and all the lights go off at the exact same time.
That doesn't sound good for my poor bruised shoulder.
You can feel this thing, but you can't really see it. It's big and fluffy and metal underneath.
The worst of both worlds.
This went from Scooby-Doo to Five Nights at Freddy's real quick.
Ceph, what are you doing as far as the back entrance that you've been led to?
Did Sax drop me off outside the tent?
Yeah, just outside a doorway flap.
I do a prowl to enter the tent. Ooh, that was a failure. I got a 2.
As soon as that flap closes, there's no light in the area that you've walked into. and you reach forward to make sure that you're guiding yourself along if there's any kind of wall or canvas. But when you reach out, you prick your hand on something sharp, and you feel fur with your other hand. Ceph makes noise, then you all hear each other, and you are literally on the other side of the giant thing between you. So that's going to be level 1 harm, a stabbed hand, but that would get forced up to level 2 harm since your level 1 harms are all filled.
Okay, so I have that added in now. Really wishing I had a enigmatic form at this point.
You can resist it, probably insight or prowess.
I'll do prowess.
Okay, that's completely resisted. You callus over your hand, shifting wise, to prevent it from penetrating your skin. You can feel this metal framed teddy bear material that you're touching, and you can hear each other, and you know that the others are nearby.
It's probably me.
I'm definitely complaining about my bloody shoulder.
We're all in danger, and Madeline's having a corn dog.
How much essence would it cost me to burn this entire place down?
I was just thinking that, really. If it's all flammable, just one tiny spark. The teddy bear does seem rather flammable.
The lights on the eyes turn on. Everyone except Madeline is bathed in the light coming from the eyes of this 8.5-foot tall bear-shaped creature wearing coveralls with giant chunks of broken glass in its hands. It's holding like daggers. Those lights illuminate all of you, and its mouth opens, and it starts spewing black slime, and it turns as it's spewing on all 3 of you.
Do we take any damage from this slime?
No. However, you can resist it with prowess since the lights turned on first.
Or are we just going to be coated in slime?
I want to resist.
4, you resist the expend 1 willpower.
I might as well try.
Yeah.
So the floor in front of all of you is now covered in this black slime. It's very similar to the smell of what Elise studied earlier on the floor. And it's growing toward you.
And it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, can I burn it with fire?
This entire day has been disgusting.
I'm just glad I didn't go in there right now.
Slime's bad enough, but it also smells disgusting. Yeah, Hollis wanted to use some hellfire.
We're used to disgusting smells with Ceph around anyhow.
Just a note, this would become a risky situation if there's fire around because of the tent.
Do you guys want me to set it on fire, or do you want me to wait and see what happens?
Do you think we'll lose track of where Roger is if we set fire to everything now?
Burn it to the ground.
If I may, though, I would like to leap back just from the disgusting nature of this thing. I don't want to be anywhere near it.
Okay, so I'm going to aim for just setting the bear on fire. 1 effort. I failed.
Okay, you send flame toward it, but it mostly lands on the ground, and it does catch fire to the goop. The flames are surrounding the bear.
There's a lot more light now.
It's true. And you feel a stab in the back of your neck.
Neck wound buddies!
I'll just take the neck wound.
All right, that's a level 1 harm.
Maybe if we back away, the bear will just walk right through the fire.
If it doesn't, it can't really do much to us, can it?
The bear does start walking through the fire, heading toward Hollis, and slashing with the shard of broken mirror.
Can I grow my cutaneous talon and now run towards the bear?
Yeah, absolutely. Just spend 1 essence for the talon. Its legs have now caught on fire, and the fire is quickly rising up its body. You can see mechanical servos underneath the fur as the fire is consuming the fur. Hollis, it is close enough to be effectively brawling with you, so you'll need to do something to get away from it. Unless somebody wants to step up and try to distract it or something.
I will lunge, rip off some of the fur and see what's underneath so we can have a better idea of how to stop it.
Okay.
What about finesse? To finesse the skin off with my talon?
Yeah, sure. What part of the body?
I think that I might go from the chin to the chest, just try to slit that all open.
Yeah. And I think we're moving to desperate at this point.
That was a complete success.
Okay. You completely remove the fur from its solar plexus all the way down. The fur just peels off the arms and slides down into the fire, putting a little bit of the fire on its legs out, but then the flames just burst around it all and start climbing back up. And now you can see there's a bare neck and head, and there's no fur left on the rest of its body. And its eye lights are just trained directly on you.
Can I see how it works, how I might be able to stop up the gears?
I have trauma reckless from last time. Now that Madeline's stripped the fur off and we can see the metal bits, could I potentially use psychometry to try to touch it and get any kind of idea of something that might help us?
Yeah, we'll resolve Madeline's first, but that sounds like a really cool idea.
Could I do a study?
Could I help?
You could assist from back there, just trying to be distracting, keep it from stabbing her while she's trying to do this. So that'll be standard effect.
Partial success out of 5.
Okay. Ceph, what does it look like with you distracting or assisting?
I would assume at this point it's probably got its eyes locked fully on Madeline. I'm probably not in direct line of sight, and I would just try to lunge towards its back or an extremity.
Grabbing a hold of one of its arms so that it can't pull away from Madeline. Do you have any tools?
I have daggers.
Throwing daggers are very small, hard to get it to the right spot, but you do have a really good idea of what that right spot is.
Maybe jabbed in a gear joint or something?
Yeah, you've basically locked up the entire top half. All the arm joints and the head tilt motion is unable to work. The only thing that's still working are its legs. So it's just twisting and flailing. Its torso is twisting, and it's walking toward you and trying to trample over you, but it's not nearly as dangerous now. So we'll go back to risky.
Some kind of crude mix between the thriller and the robot.
So you're all back together now, effectively.
I must admit, I'm absolutely useless here because my powers only really work on people, not robots, or automatons, or whatever the hell you want to call this ghastly thing.
The fire is starting to get a little bit out of control. It's started to climb up the tent pole back here, which was wood. It is illuminating this whole back area, and you can see that the tent connects up to another substantial hallway in the back.
I don't know if you guys want to go that way or not, but I expressed interest in using psychometry on the robot.
I'm very much for running down that hallway, but let the silly fish person do what they must.
I think I would like to see perhaps the creator of the robot, or why the person made this robot, essentially. Like, who's involved with it. If I were to try and put my hand into its chest to try to access some kind of operating system, would that work?
You have to shout Kali Ma as you do it, you know that, right?
You can always make the roll more desperate to increase your effect level.
Okay, I might be interested in doing that, but also we mentioned last time casting style, and I mentioned if things were too hot or dry that might affect my magic style, so I think that should probably come into play considering we're surrounded in fire.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
As if it wasn't a reckless enough scenario already.
Yeah, so let's say because of your casting style, we'll go down to lesser effect. And if you do jam your hand directly into the heart area, and if that dagger were to come free, you could lose your hand. I think that would be trading effect level for position level.
Would I be able to do maybe a Fey bargain as well to try to get an additional dice on this? I also still have my mental situation going on from Tina. I don't know if that's going to mess me up too. I'm putting myself in a bad situation right now.
Yeah, that is true. It was psychometry that got you into that situation as well. While you're doing this, she is trying to reach out to you as well. And so she's going to get through to you, and she's going to have a little bit of an effect on you while you're doing this. She's going to try to keep you in the fire. You're going to be stuck there reading its mind, even as the fire is creeping up you a little bit.
Crispy.
Level 1 harm, which pops up to level 2 harm. You could say, like, crispy fish legs.
Crispy fish sticks. There we go.
I think that it's only fair that Tina has nightmares of a giant animatronic burning bear.
We're all going to.
I'll send pictures afterward. Okay, so we're at desperate position, standard effect, and +1 die.
The 5. Maybe my fingers are getting crunched.
Yeah, you'd be looking at level 3 harm, mangled hand.
Okay, so I'll have my venom, my small neck wound, my crispy fish legs, and a level 3 mangled hand. I'm fucked up, guys. I'm messed up.
I'm gonna have to carry you out.
I don't think first aid kit's gonna cover all this.
But you're about to get some really good information. In your mind, you go all the way back to when it was created. You recognize the era. You're like, why isn't everything black and white? This thing has been around for a really long time. You see the person who was putting it together. They look like they are just going through the motions. There's no ill will or anything that they're putting into it. 3 of them on an assembly line, and this person's just going from one to the next, installing the same parts in each of them. You jump ahead in time, and you see all the fur get gross from age. You just watch it age until you've come to a much closer time to now, and Roger standing over this bear as it's laying on the ground. And he's conducting a ritual with 2 other people. And this thing is sitting at the center of their ritual circle. You hear a lot of other Latin words. Rise, Malachor. Rise and serve us. You see black ichor bubble up from its heart into its mouth and into all of its extremities, and the thing gains a life of its own.
Roger's a lot deeper and darker than we thought, Hollis. He's messed up.
This is what we get for interacting with men.
Okay, you get your hand mangled and your legs are on fire.
Maybe it's a true name kind of situation, and now that we know what its name is, we can tell it to stop.
I say, we just leave this thing to burn itself to pieces. And get the hell out of here before one of us gets mangled further.
Do we want to go down the hallway farther in, or do we want to leave?
Oh, I'm quite committed to killing Roger now at this point. I don't care what he has to offer.
I'm mangled and crispy. We can't leave now. This will all be for nothing.
Well, maybe I could freeze the bear in place so it would be easier for us to get around it.
It's only its legs that are still working, so if you freeze it about halfway up, that should be all you need to do to completely freeze it in its tracks.
So 1 essence should be plenty. Oh, wow, I got a partial success that time.
You want to describe how that looks?
Yeah, so Hollis puts out her hands. She's not going to touch it. And she rubs her hands together, then faces them flat out and starts speaking in her low, growly vocalizations. And the fire slowly changes from hot to cold, and everything freezes in place, and it looks like the fire is frozen. And the bear stops moving.
And I think the ice freezing the fire goes all the way up the tent pole. And because the tent pole was already damaged from the fire, and now with the weight of the ice, that tent pole cracks and the entire tent comes down on you.
At least we're not going to burn to death.
Now it's pitch black in here again. The device has stopped moving. Where do you want to go from here?
As far from this bear as we can bloody get.
All the fire has now turned to ice, so the fire is no longer a problem. It's just a matter of you all finding your way to that back hallway if that's where you're all headed. Maybe some kind of group action in the dark under the fallen tent.
I'm mangled and crispy, so who's gonna go first?
Scrambling around in the dark. After about 30 or 45 seconds, you all find yourselves out of the tent and into that hallway. You can see a couple of flickering emergency lights and a red exit sign straight ahead. The tent has completely collapsed behind you. You see the black ichor bubbling up from under the tent and continuing to chase you. It is moving quite slowly. You hear chanting in Roger's voice coming from directly ahead.
I don't have any more patience for this prick. I don't know about any of you. But I think we should let Madeline choose their earthly talons on Roger's nasty little throat. Do you agree, Madeline, darling?
I should definitely love to.
But really, at this point, Roger's proven to be a liability. He's proven to be a nuisance. He's proven to be a threat. Dear Ceph has been mangled by his machinations. I don't see any reason why we should let this wretch live.
I think I would like to try to slit his throat.
And my hand's mangled, guys, so I can't get his cool sword now, so whoever gets him, it's up for grabs.
Oh, you do know I love a cool sword.
You're going to need to get a lot closer to him. You can't even see him despite the lights. You'll need to take some other action first.
Yes, so far we're all just unanimously deciding to kill this bastard.
I will spring a little closer to him.
That'll get you into a better position based on the roll. Because he's already casting some kind of spell, we're probably in desperate territory here. You want a fey bargain, an assist, or to spend 2 willpower to push yourself.
I could bump you one for a dice if you want.
So you're springing along with Madeline to get close and distract Roger's attention?
Yeah, baby Madeline's dragging me by my good hand, and I'm like trying to keep up. I'm already mangled at this point. I'll be a distraction. I'll be the punching bag.
It is a failure at 3.
Okay, so the two of you bound down the hallway very quickly, and when you leap out from the hallway, Roger's hand on the hilt of the sword, and the sword is still in its sheath, and you're like, this is perfect timing. You're ready with your talon, and Madeline swings the talon in an attempt to slice his throat, and you slash straight through thin air at an illusion that he's created, and then you feel a sword plunge through your side. That's going to be level 3 harm sidestab.
So does that mean now the rest of us know where he actually is?
Yeah, he's in darkness off the side, but you have a much better idea than you did before.
It's so rude of him to stab me like this, honestly.
The very interesting thing you feel, Madeline, is that after the sword pierces your side, it goes completely limp. It just slides back out of the wound. He's not even holding the sword any longer. And you hear laughter as he slinks back into the shadows, leaving the sword sticking out of you.
Can I do something about this sword in my side? And also now I'm really mad.
Yeah, you could take it the rest of the way out and wield it, but you are bleeding profusely. You can resist if you'd like. That would be a prowess roll. That would reduce the damage by 1 level.
Okay, that was a 5, and I spend 1 willpower.
Awesome.
I still have 3.
You felt it hit you, and you twisted or dodged, and it avoided more of your very fragile internal organs. Madeline, you can also resist him getting away after stabbing you.
Should certainly like to resist that.
That would be an insight.
Both of those die came out to be 2, and I will spend 3 willpower, which is all the rest of mine.
What that means is that you resisted him getting away. You get to describe how that happens. So go ahead and start with that.
So I imagine that the sword didn't go as deep as he wanted, and I pulled it out, and I chop off one of his legs, so now he can't run.
Okay, that's a bit extreme, but I'll absolutely go with that. Yeah, you definitely spent the willpower to deserve it. However, you did also trauma out. I think something that would make a lot of sense is that so much internal bleeding that you pass out from all the blood loss. Does
I
that
was going to suggest that I faint.
I love that you hacked his leg off. That way, even if you're out of the action, they're all going to have a much easier time getting hold of him.
Oh, yes, darling, you've done us a great service. We'll be sure that Ceph carries you home. Over one shoulder, not with their hands.
Madeline gets to pick one trauma.
I choose vicious.
Entirely unexpected.
But very fitting for our strongest fighter.
Absolutely, I love it. That's perfect.
Now, given that this wretch has lost his leg and is obviously prone, I'm going to rush ahead and utilize the fact that I can use my grimoire powers on witches to use mental takeover on him to figure out what the bloody hell he's doing. I am going to take a fey bargain in this instance. I want to know exactly what game he thinks he's playing at before we kill him.
Clearly carnival games.
Okay, for the Fey bargain, it would make sense if we started and ticked a 4 clock that is, he is going to bleed out. He's 1 tick on the way to bleeding out, at which time he would become unconscious and you would lose access to his mind. Does that work?
Given that he's lost a leg and none of us are going to take good care of it anyhow.
Okay, I got that clock started, and you can make your roll.
A complete success.
You have complete access to his mind. What would you like to learn?
I'd like to learn what game he's playing at here, why he's sent us to do his dirty work, and why, when we have come back to figure out more, he has decided to try to play games with us. Literal carnival games. And sick of animatronic on us. My god, the man's mad. This is, again, what we get for dealing with men.
We should not deal with any more men.
The first thing you get is why he's doing it. Apparently, he is sick. The other thing you learn immediately is that his familiar has been all over the place. He's been watching you all and everything you've done through his familiar. And his familiar has also delivered the vast majority of the damage everyone's taken.
Animatronic bear.
No,
I think it's this neck wound thing that Hollis and I have been dealing with.
Yep. His familiar is a large wasp.
Whisper, come on, you're on my fucking shoulder and you couldn't handle a wasp? Stupid spider.
I think you'll find wasps usually kill spiders, not the other way around, darling. Have you never seen a cazador?
I haven't.
Terrifying things. They stab their stinger into a tarantula's body and then lay their eggs in its twitching corpse.
Anything else you want to know? I think you said what he expects to get out of this.
Yes, you said he's already not right in the head, so at that point I expect he doesn't really have a practical understanding of what he might get out of this, but I would like to know what he thinks at least.
Yeah, you find in his mind his exact escape route, his exact escape plan, and it was that he was going to drop the sword that he didn't even care about and get away, but Madeline made that not an option for him.
I meant his perceived potential reward for this was good information.
Yeah, it was to cause chaos and damage to his rival's coven.
Damn it, Hollis!
I told you he was terrible.
That rivalry won't matter much longer. Hollis, darling,
Yes.
now that I'm done with his mind, before he has the opportunity to do anything else,
How long do we have before he bleeds to death?
You could cauterize his leg, make it last for as long as you want.
That's what I was thinking. I would just kind of fix it so that he doesn't die, and then maybe take a couple extra parts.
deliciously dark, and I feel like I'm really at home.
Someone mangle his hand for me. An eye for an eye.
Someone make him faint for me.
He's going in and out of consciousness, not bad enough to pop police out of his mind.
Given whose rival it is, I will say that we should all leave it up to Hollis.
So we see the camera pull out as everyone else walks out of the room, and Hollis, a handful of hellfire, and then the camera fades to black as you hear him scream.